And here is Nigeria's President Muhammadu Buhari speaking on the release of the boys and other related issues.
The law enforcement agencies, in this case especially the military, the army, and the governor worked extremely hard. And as soon as they got them, the governor rang me and informed me. And I congratulated him and the army that organized the operation and so on. We spoke with the governor. I congratulated him and I congratulated the army that organized the, the operation, encirclement of the people, of the abductors, and getting the children. The military is well trained. I think they are sufficiently motivated. The governor, I'm very impressed with the governor. He has been, up and doing since it happened. And I congratulated him that the children have been successfully recovered. Well, we are doing our best. Remember when we closed the borders? We found out that still, somehow, the terrorists or the abductors still get weapons and ammunition. They still take people hostages. They are collecting millions of naira. We have a lot of work ahead of us, and some of the things we may not say. I don't want to compromise the security and the efforts being put by the law enforcement agencies. But really, we are acutely aware of our responsibilities. Our responsibility is to secure the country. So we have a lot of work to do. Well, armed forces know their job. I meet them. We have security meetings from time to time. They must be very clear of my instructions. Their efforts is not good enough for me. Our responsibility, as I said, is to secure this country for all the citizens to do their businesses without any problem. We haven't achieved that yet, but we will keep on trying. I will continue to be loyal to this country. I have asked for this mandate. I got it. I must not advance any excuse for failing to perform. But the insecurity, I'm extremely worried about it, and I hope next year it will be different. Those among the law enforcement agencies that remain in charge will be extremely busy.
So the president there. For more on the freed Katsina Boys, security analyst Temitope Olodo via WebEx joins us now. Welcome. We're all trying to get our heads around the good news and just to let it all sink in. But is there any aspect, of the fact that you still have people protesting and pushing forward that you feel is maybe we need to all wait first and get more information rather than continuing down the road of challenging how the authorities are responding at this time? What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think what Nigerians are doing is not actually bad. I think people are congratulating the president and the governor for bringing back the kids, which is right. We call it the hamburger principle. While you praise the individuals for what they are doing and you acknowledge what they've done, you could also, along simultaneously, highlight issues of concern along the way. So asking questions about the numbers. Amaka brilliantly speaking to the boy to be able to confirm the authenticity of the video is relevant. All those questions need to be asked. That doesn't mean anybody is being cascaded. It just means that due diligence is being done to ensure that all the kids are back, everybody is happy, and then we start talking about lessons learned. Just like the president has admitted, there are concerns. He was given a mandate, and he will not shy away from that mandate. the right things have not been done yet, things we have to improve. And I think you've actually done a breaking news, because it's more or less highlighting that some people might have to leave among the service chief without mentioning names. So we wait and see what the president intends to do in that front.
Indeed. I like the fact that you spoke about the exclusive interview. Our correspondent, Amaka, who is doing a brilliant job on the ground, spoke with the boy in that video. But there was something he said that struck me. He said some of their abductors were, quote, little boys with big guns. What does that speak to, Temitope?
I think it speaks to the failure of government and the failure of the system. We know we have over 10 million kids out of school. These kids have not been engaged in any way. And if they've not been engaged in any way, some of them will end up in criminality, which is what we have in our hands at the moment. So we need to look at the recruitment strategy of these individuals who are violent extremists. And we need to find a way to stop their recruitment strategy. If we don't stop it, even if we remove 200 from their hands, they will get another 200, because they have a pool of 10 million to pick from. When kids are not going to school, what do you expect them to do? So, and that is the challenge that we need to look at. And I think with what has just happened, we might need to look at a super school approach. If the government cannot secure all the schools, then maybe there is need to create super schools, just like you're creating super camps. And then you have security embedded within the school, so that the safety and security of those kids are guaranteed and their parents are confident that the safety of their children is secured.
Okay, speaking of challenges that have been brought to the fore as a result of this event, the president spoke of the fact that he was surprised that despite closing the borders, lots of guns were still being brought across. And yet you hear people mention that the Sahel region, the border there is quite porous, including the forest there. Should it be a surprise to the president that these guns and weapons are still being trafficked across?
No, it should not be. We know that with the fall of Gaddafi, we know that a lot of weapons actually fell into or got into the black market, and we know with the ongoing incident in Mali, that is also reason for the flow of weapons. And we need to do more in order to ensure that these weapons are not getting into our country, by being actively involved in those countries and in those discussions in those countries. Because we know, it's a matter of fact, that even members of Boko Haram were spotted being involved in Mali, or going there to Mali, or going even to Libya. So the president should not be surprised. I think what needs to be done is a rejig of the security infrastructure to make it fit for purpose, just like the exclusive news interview that you had on your station some few days ago with the private military companies that were brought into the country. And they made it clear that it's not that the Nigerian military does not have the skill set, it's just that they are not really familiar with this kind of war. And that is what we need to look at. Bring them into the 21st century, because they seem to be operating within the 15th century when it comes to engaging the insurgents.
And Temitope, this should be deeply embarrassing that this happened in the president's home state and that it was in the state at this time. But also very important is the scale of this abduction. 344 boys were taken from their school. And this is not the first time this is happening. But what will be the primary objective of the scale of abduction? Because the Governor Masari, has said this was not an armed operation. The children were just released without collateral damage.
We know from eyewitnesses and from information that have been gathered by very good journalists that the bandit, or hybrid bandit as I call them, went into the town initially, and the town has been under constant attack of recent. So you will have assumed that your DSS, your police will have been looking at the risk issues related to that state, to that particular town. and they left them on their own. Why is it that there's no security when you know that these people are under constant attack? That said, the issue of safe initiative or safer school initiative comes into play because we know that from 2009 onwards, Nigerian schools have not been really safe. And we know that some people behind the scene have been working really hard to make sure that our schools are safe, including your chairman, who was in London in 2013 for a House of Commons event, which I was actually invited to, where the issue was discussed about school security. But it seems as if we have everything in paper, but in practice, we don't have them. And it should not have been really easy for these individuals to go away with 300 plus students if the appropriate measures were in place. And I'm surprised that the principal of the school is still hidden, because he has a lot of questions to answer in terms of security in the schools, in terms of the risk register, instead of his engagement with the police for rapid response issues. Nothing has been discussed. Those are the questions in the next few hours and next few days that we're going to be demanding as Nigerians. And we want our schools to be secured. If they're not secured yet, close the schools, wait till January, make sure you bring them back and ensure that the appropriate measures are in place to ensure that parents will be confident to send those kids back. Because if that is not done, we'll find out that half of those students might not go back to that school.
Okay, Temitope, let's speak of at least a group that don't seem to be theorizing, but seem to be implementing certain, do you say, strategic practices that are worthy of observation or at least analysis. We saw from the young boy that Amaka interviewed that he identified that, and which Adesua mentioned, the people who abducted them were young people with guns. Is it safe to say that the face of terrorism is changing and that you have what some could term succession planning? You called it a hybrid. You call them hybrid bandits. So if they are already looking ahead, and I think Governor Masara said that they weren't Boko Haram, but they may have been trained by Boko Haram. So is it safe to say that the face of terrorism is changing and they're already looking ahead towards, how to sustain terrorism?
The face of terrorism have always been changing. Boko Haram started with tape recorders and moved on to having millions of views on YouTube, when Nigerian army cannot even muzzle up some videos or embed even soldier journalists within their ranks to capture what they are doing. These guys are always advancing. And we know from a recent video that was released of a young boy demonstrating military skills, how to handle guns. These guys are evolving and they are always thinking ahead. This is it's a PLC, it's a business. And these guys are in business and they need to have people that will take over from them. And with the ungoverned space and millions of youths that are out of school, they have a lot to choose from. And that is why we need to break it. We need to now look at practical ways of stopping our youth being recruited by these kids, because these people are even kidnapping kids to bring into their fold. So it's not like kids are walking into them. They go and kidnap kids and put into their rank and file and groom them and train them. Just like the popular film we used to watch in those days, the Alibaba thief. We need to really, really sit down as Nigerians and ask ourselves, what is it that we want to do? We need to stop this class approach where if it doesn't affect the rich people and the big people, then there's no need for them to worry. There will be no raid at an airport. There will be no raid at a supermarket where the governors are going to. It will be places where the poor people are going to, where the helpless people are going to, and we need to stop it.
Okay, Temitope, so from what we know so far, the boys have left the government house at the moment. They will undergo medical examination before they are reunited with their families. But should there be further steps taken before these children are reintegrated into society? That's on the one hand. On the other hand, we're all jubilating, we're excited, it is great news, we're commending everyone who was involved in this release. But I don't think it's such a great news for the parents of the remaining Chibok school girls. I don't think it's such a great news for the parents of Leah Sharibu, who is the only Dakchi girl still in captivity. But does this provide any sliver of hope to those parents that, perhaps they would also be on national and international TV such as ours, talking about the release and, the reuniting with their children?
I think if there's anything that has come out of this, is the brilliant work that the Nigerian media have done to put a spotlight on this issue and ensure that the kids are going back. So if anything, I will thank the Nigerian media for the work they've done. If I have a guard in my house and he left my door open, for my kid to run out, of course, I'll be happy that my child is back, but I'll be sacking that guard for criminal negligence because he didn't do his job. He slept on duty. That is the truth. And I think a lot of our security services are sleeping on duty, and there is need to review the approaches that we adopt. I've always said it, and I'll stand by it. The Nigerian military does not have the skill, does not have the capacity or the skill set to get back the kids that are being kidnapped. That's the job of the police, because they are trained on tracing these individuals, going after stories, crossing out the I's and T's, doing their homework, digging ground, speaking to people in other countries. We all know of the story of the McCain family in the UK that went to Spain and lost their 5-year-old in the process. The Metropolitan Police have traveled to many countries. There is a budget and delegated detectives that are doing that work. Now, that is exactly the role the president and the Inspector General of Police should be doing. There should be individuals who are clearly identified as looking for the Chibok girls and the captured girls, following up on stories, on reports, on where they are. How can you expect the military, who are busy trying to look for Boko Haram members, to also be thinking of Lei Shaibu or thinking of the Chibok girls? And let's be honest, some of the Chibok girls will not return because they're already intertwined with the people, with the commanders or the members of Boko Haram that they are married to. They might have 1 or 2 kids now, so they might not want to return. But at least we can cross the teeth and they can talk to their family and say, yes, I'm here, I'm happy, I don't want to turn back. But we must not leave anybody. Any Nigerian must not be left behind. And I'm pleased that the president has reaffirmed that, reassured Nigerians through this message, solemnly, that we put him in place and he's going to do the job for us. So we are thankful to Mr. President for that, and we're going to hold him accountable for that.
Yes, just to reiterate what you just said, no Nigerian should be left behind. But let me just go back to what you also touched on, which is what you say is the role of the police, which is to trace and to investigate and just bring up more information on these activities. And I want to ask, because you might be able to supply this answer, why is it that we don't have any following the money trail? Because we saw at the NSAS protests how quickly they were able to trace those who had funded the protests and to freeze their bank accounts. Why don't we have the same kind of tactics being employed, since clearly money is being exchanged to purchase weapons and various other things like that?
I mentioned earlier the issue of class. It depends on who is being affected, who is affected by the incident. You see, and I don't want to sound brutal to our security service. They have the skill set. I've got a group, the African Security Forum. There's a lot of military personnel and police officers on that platform who are brilliant. There are Nigerians that know their onions. Are they given the two skills? Are they allowed to do their work without interference? That is the question. And until we continue to put pressure on them to do their work, they can trace anybody if they want to trace them. Let's not doubt it. The Nigeria killing machine has the capacity to do the work. The bottom line is, are they ready to do the work, or are they given the free hand to do the work? You don't need to look at the body movement of the president before arresting somebody who has committed a crime. You don't need the special advisor of the president to leave a tweet before you start following people up. You should do your work. Generally, the president, our commander-in-chief, if people have forgotten, fought across the border, traced, followed people, the Matisani, into the other territory until he was stopped. That is a proactive commander that followed them. And that is what we know of our army. They have that skill set. They can follow them into anywhere they want to go to. But I don't know why it's not happening. And those are the questions that we need to ask now. Because having been a special constable with 10 police and seeing this kind of skill set that Nigerian police have, some of them, I know that they have the capacity to do it. But I don't know why they're not doing it.
Well, thank you so much, Temitope Olodo, security consultant, for your time on Newsday. We do appreciate it.